Hello and welcome to the video tutorial for NovaStore Data Center. Today we'll be covering the installation of the Data Center command server and client, as well as creation of your first backup jobs and defining your storage target media pool and covering the options involved in the software. So first locate the folder where Data Center zip was unpacked to, and then find the file starting with cmd_srv and run that. Double click. It's going to start the Data Center command server installation. Click next here. I accept, then next, next again, next. We're going to go with the DNS method here. You could go with IP method, but this is the name of the node that's going to show up as next. If you need to change any options here, you can, but we're not going to. So go ahead and click next, next again, next again. It's going to unpack that install. So this is the command server installation. We're going to switch over to our client install. So we're going to switch to a Hyper-V server machine and start the command server client installation there so that the client can communicate to the command server. So we're going to switch back to the command server install once we're done with that client install. So we're going to go ahead and do that now. So find the folder where the data center was unpacked to and find the file starting with client. Double click on it and that'll start the client install. Hit next, I accept, next, next again, next. And in our case, we're going to fill in the command server name. So that was novastore-dc. And then we're going to click the next button. Next, next. It's going to install that client. Now we're going to switch back over to the command server and finish up that install. So on the finish screen here, it says Start Management Console. We're going to click Finish. It's going to load that command server, and the login default is admin, lowercase admin with blank password. Hit Login. And then we're going to go to Nodes Management to verify both of those nodes are in a list as the Hyper-V server and our command server, and that is the case. We have both of them in here as two different entries, and we're going to verify that the command server has some options set. So right click on your command server, and we're going to do an edit node here and then verify that the backup server component is enabled, and it is in our case, which will be in your case for command servers. And then we're going to also add our VMware server in, and come here and then go to manage proxy and then add, and then we're going to go in and fill in our ESXi server and our username and password, root username and password, and then click add. And it did add successfully the vCenter server. Click close, and then back on this screen you're going to click the OK button. And now we're going to create our first disk pool. Go to storage management on the left side, backup servers, expand, and then right click and do a create disk pool. And then we have two different types of disk pools. In our case, we're going to create a disk pool that's for a command server backup to back up our command server configuration. So pick disk pool, and the GER pool here is for Hyper-V or VMware backup, so we're not going to use that now. So back on the disk pool, we're going to fill in the disk pool DC for our data center backup to back up our data center configuration files, and then 00, whatever you want to do there for the set of numbers that's required. Browse to your destination storage device. That's going to be eBackup in our case. And now you have the ability to define your retention. By default, it'll be 30 days. You'll also have to create a schedule for that retention, otherwise it won't do anything for you. So here on this retention pull down schedule, you can select a schedule, and in our case we have to create one because there won't be any by default. And we're going to name our retention schedule as just retention, and then hit the plus button, select every day of the week for how often we want to run that retention, and specify a time for it to always run at, in our case 5 there. Click OK. OK again, and then select the actual schedule retention in our case, and now you can press the OK button when done. we can expand and see that disk pool here. Create another disk pool by right-clicking, create disk pool, and then in this case we're going to give it a GUR pool, granular item restore. Give it a name. We're going to give it VMs, and then for the directory, click browse, and then select that same E drive backup folder where our target destination is going to go. And then for the other options here, we're going to give it a default retention value and go to schedule it here and use the same retention schedule for that retention. Click OK, and then now our disk pools are defined, and we can go into backup jobs. From here, you'll right-click on the empty space and do new. In our case, we have options for file backups, virtual machine, Exchange, SQL, and then disaster recovery. We're going to pick a file level, and we're going to name the job command server in our case, because this is just going to back up the command server database and files regarding the command server. So select the node for command server in your case, and then select file set. And in our case, we're going to see a list of drives on that command server C and E, but we're going to pick the C drive because that's where command server stores its files. So first of all, go to program files on the C drive, and then find NovaStore, hold down the left mouse and drag it over to include files, and then go back one folder, come and find program data and NovaStore, hold down and left click mouse, drag and drop over to the right side, include files on that program data folder. Here we have the options for backup schemes. We have like a incremental, differential, full, and a combination of full, differential, full, incremental, but in our case we're going to pick full backup for that job. And then go to target. That's where we can pick the disk pool that we created earlier, and in our case that's a single disk pool, and we're going to click that disk pool to select it. And your other options are to schedule the job here in the pull down menu. You can create a new schedule from that list. You also have the ability to have a max runtime for the backup to set how long the backup will take before it's force stopped. Max delay is your ability to set a time interval for basically retrying the job. For instance, if the server's down at the time, data center will detect that and then delay for X amount of minutes here that you pick for that delay. In our case, we can pick 120 minutes, and it'll retry the job again in 120 minutes from the scheduled time. So you also have options here. We're not going to cover the options, but you do have the ability to set a higher level of compression. By default, it's RLE, and various other items here. Click OK when done, and now you have that backup job created as command server backup. Right click again, we're going to create our Hyper-V job. So go down to virtual machines, and then we're going to pick, in our case, Hyper-V at the bottom. And then once in the Hyper-V job screen, you're going to pick the node, your Hyper-V node. So we're going to pick, in our case, our single Hyper-V node that we added the client to, and give it a job name as VMs. Click on the Select VMs menu button there, and then go to Custom VMs. We're going to pick 2 of the VMs here, and we'll do that now. The option down at the bottom, backup host component, is your ability to back up the Hyper-V configuration as a separate entity into this VM backup job. You can do that if you'd like to. Click OK, and then go to target, and then pick your disk pool. In our case, we had that GUR pool that we created earlier for the granular restore capability, and choose that GUR pool, and then click OK at the bottom. And then once your VM's job is in place, you can right click on the command server backup job, do a connectivity test here, and that'll test your connection between the client, the backup server, and the storage target. In our case, they're all green, so they're all good. And then click close at the bottom. Right click and then do a start, and click OK here at the bottom to confirm that. And then in the monitoring tab here, you can see the job just started, and it's showing the amount of data transferred and the status of that job. And if you have more than one job, it'll show you that as well. So that concludes that section of the video. One note is you can go to the online user manual up at the top here, the configuration wizard button. And once you're on the screen, you can use the middle option here for viewing the Data Center Online User Manual. That concludes the video tutorial on NovaStore Data Center installation and first backup. Thank you for watching.